Just heard the news that Disney is looking for IP that appeals to young men. And look, I get it. On paper, that sounds like a smart move, a necessary course correction after a string of box office disappointments that all seem to share a common thread. But the fundamental mind-bendingly frustrating problem is that you already have the keys to the entire kingdom. You have Star Wars. You have the entire Marvel universe. You have Alien. You have Predator. And you have Terminator. The issue was never a lack of iconic, male-appealing IP. The issue is a chronic, systemic refusal to let that IP be what it was built to be. For years, the strategy hasn't been to nurture these properties, it's been to fundamentally alter their DNA, to strip out the core, masculine-centric themes that made them resonate and replace them with a message that often feels dismissive or even hostile to the original audience. And I know what the response will be from certain quarters, that times change, that these old properties need to evolve, that audiences demand more diverse representation. But evolution isn't the same as erasure. Inclusion doesn't have to mean exclusion of the existing audience. The problem is that you are not letting your existing IP be male-centric. There is absolutely no use in buying another beloved property just to turn around and feminize it and strip it of what made it appeal to that audience in the first place. The blueprint is already in your vault. Look, let's just break this down because it's so frustrating to see this cycle happen over and over again. The report says, and I'm paraphrasing here, that Disney feels it has a weakness with young male viewers and that they're looking to acquire or develop new intellectual property to fix that problem. And my immediate reaction was to just laugh, but it's a sad laugh, you know? It's the laugh of someone watching a man search for his car keys in a dark alley when they're sitting in the ignition of his car, which is parked in his own well-lit garage. The keys are right there. The car is right there. You just have to get in and drive it. But instead, the current strategy seems to be to find a different car, one that you think looks cool and masculine, and then you immediately take it to a custom shop to have the engine swapped out for something less powerful. You repaint it a color the original owner would hate, and you wonder why nobody who liked that car in the first place wants to drive it anymore. Let's talk about what makes something appeal to a young male audience. And I'm not talking about superficial things like explosions and muscles. I'm talking about core narrative themes. Young men, like any demographic, are drawn to stories that reflect their internal struggles, their aspirations, and their view of the world. Traditionally, and this is just a storytelling fact, young men are captivated by a few key archetypes. The hero's journey, for one. A young man, often uncertain or feeling out of place, is called to adventure, faces immense trials, learns from a mentor, confronts evil, and returns transformed. It's Luke Skywalker, it's Peter Parker, it's John Connor, it's the blueprint for 1,000 stories. They're also drawn to the concept of competence. The idea that skill, knowledge, and perseverance can overcome any obstacle. This is the appeal of Tony Stark building his suit in a cave, or Ellen Ripley figuring out how to blow the alien out of an airlock, or Dutch Schaefer slowly learning how to fight the Predator on its own terms. It's about agency, the belief that your actions matter and that you can affect the world around you through your own will and ability. Then there's the theme of protecting others, the defender, the guardian. This isn't about toxic dominance. It's about a primal, noble instinct to shield the innocent, whether it's a family, a community, or a planet. This is Captain America standing alone against Thanos' entire army. This is Sarah Connor hardening herself to protect her son, the future savior. This is Obi-Wan Kenobi facing Darth Vader to let Luke and the others escape. And finally, there's the exploration of what it means to be a man. The struggle with anger, with responsibility, with purpose. The Hulk is a perfect metaphor for uncontrolled male rage. Wolverine is a man haunted by a violent past seeking redemption. The Terminator itself is a journey from a cold, unfeeling machine of destruction to a father figure who learns the value of human life. These are powerful, resonant themes, and Disney owns almost all of these characters, so what's the problem? The problem is a fundamental misunderstanding, or perhaps a deliberate rejection, of these themes in the modern storytelling approach. The new model isn't to tell a compelling story about a male character's journey, it's to deconstruct him, to humiliate him in favor of a female character who is inherently, immediately, and effortlessly superior. It's not about adding strong female characters. We've always had strong female characters. Princess Leia was a leader and a rebel who took charge. Ripley is one of the greatest action heroes of all time, male or female. Sarah Connor evolved from a terrified waitress into a hardened warrior. The problem is the method. The new method is to tear down the existing male icon to build up the new female one. Look at the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Luke Skywalker, the ultimate symbol of hope and optimism, the farm boy who believed there was good in the most evil man in the galaxy, is transformed into a bitter, cynical hermit who contemplated murdering his nephew in his sleep. His entire legacy, the rebuilt Jedi Order, is destroyed off-screen. He dies alone and failed, while a character with no training, Rey, effortlessly masters the Force, outperforms him, and literally takes the mantle of Skywalker without having earned the name through anything but her own desire. The message to young boys who looked up to Luke: your heroes are failures. Their legacy is worthless. You are not needed. The future belongs to someone who is simply better than you by birthright. Now, imagine an alternate universe where the sequel trilogy was about Luke training a new generation of Jedi, facing a new threat, and passing on his wisdom and skills to a new hero who could have been male or female. That would have been a story that honored the character and appealed to the core audience while also expanding it, but that's not what we got. Let's talk about Marvel. Phase 4 and beyond has been a case study in this. The original male heroes are either killed off like Iron Man or systematically diminished and turned into jokes. Thor, the god of thunder, has been transformed from a Shakespearean tragic figure into a bumbling, fat-shaming punchline. His serious moments are undercut by jokes. His competence is constantly questioned. In his own fourth movie, he's literally stripped of his power and weapon and made to play second fiddle to Jane Foster, who, while comic accurate in her origin, immediately wields Mjolnir with more mastery and purpose than Thor ever did. The message isn't that Jane is a cool hero in her own right. The message is that Thor is obsolete. Bruce Banner is no longer a character struggling with a terrifying inner monster. He's a quirky, nerdy guy who has somehow solved his anger issues and merged with the Hulk to become a harmless, non-threatening comedic relief character. The Hulk, the embodiment of raw, uncontrollable power, is now used for product placement and getting beaten up by his cousin. And what about the new characters? The male characters introduced are often sidekicks, villains, or flawed to the point of incompetence. The focus is overwhelmingly on the female heroes, which would be fine if it felt organic and if the stories were well told, but it often comes at the direct expense of the established male characters that the audience has loved for over a decade. And it brings me to a perfect, nuanced example. Terminator. Someone might argue, and not without reason, that Terminator is becoming obsolete, that the fear of a singular, physical robot assassin feels almost quaint, even nostalgic, in an age where we're grappling with the very real, existential, and abstract dread of AGI, artificial general intelligence. The idea that a true conscious and potentially misaligned AI might emerge silently in a server farm somewhere feels more immediate and terrifying than a time-traveling killer. So why would young men today care about a franchise built on an 80s vision of tech apocalypse? And this is where the brilliant once-in-a-generation opportunity lies, an opportunity that Disney is almost certainly going to miss because they fundamentally misunderstand the audience they're trying to reach. Terminator isn't obsolete. Its original metaphor has simply matured, evolved in the real world, waiting for the fiction to catch up. The core fear of Terminator was never just the robot itself. It was the deeper philosophical terror of our own creations turning against us, the fear of technology without a soul, without mercy, without humanity, a cold, perfectly logical system that sees human beings as variables. as inefficiencies, as problems to be optimized, even if that optimization means eradication. My God, is that not the central defining anxiety of our time? We're not lying awake at night worried about a gun-wielding android from the future. We're worried about the black box algorithm that decides our credit score or job application, the autonomous drone system that makes a life or death kill decision based on flawed data, the AGI that analyzes global ecosystem data and concludes with flawless, chilling logic that humanity is a carbon-intensive pest whose removal is the most efficient path to planetary stability. The Terminator franchise is more relevant than ever, but it needs a translation. It needs a writer who understands both the original's masculine core, the struggle of man against machine, and the modern complex landscape of digital anxiety. Imagine a Terminator story for the AI age. It's about digital competence, about using intelligence, resilience, and sheer force of will to fight an omnipresent inhuman threat. It's a story about the value of human intuition, spirit, and that indefinable gut feeling against pure, cold, unfeeling logic. It's a primal battle, but fought on a new battlefield. But here's the catch, and this is why Disney will likely fail even with this perfect, relevant concept. Their current tired playbook would take Terminator and inevitably make the hero a woman with her cybersecurity expert female partner. And the solution to defeating the AI would be to teach it love or upload a virus of empathy or some other fundamentally non-masculine, emotionally driven resolution. They would miss the point entirely. They would fail to see that the power of this story is in speaking directly to the male psyche, the desire to confront a vast, complex, logical problem and solve it with your own wits, will, and competence. They would just buy another IP and feminize it, draining it of the very thematic power that made it potent in the first place. And this pattern is what is systematically killing these IPs. Let's be honest, the Alien Earth show, is it well shot? Does it have a gritty atmosphere? Sure, but the immediate sinking feeling a lot of young men get when they see yet another female protagonist in a franchise that has now become overwhelmingly dominated by them. In a cinematic landscape, utterly starved for new, compelling male heroes creates an immediate psychological barrier. It doesn't feel like a creative choice anymore. It feels like a corporate mandate. It feels like a statement, not a story. It reinforces the pervasive feeling that this entire entertainment ecosystem is not for you, that you are a guest in your own house, and an unwelcome one at that. This isn't about hating female characters. Ellen Ripley is a legend. Sarah Connor is an icon. This is about the relentless, one-sided pattern. It's about balance or the utter lack thereof. When every new story, every new show, every new trilogy features a female lead overcoming a flawed or absent male figure, it ceases to be representation and starts to feel like re-education. I know I use examples of